Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of The Closing Table. I'm your host, James Garman.
This is Daniel White. We're ready to go.
Yes, sir. And we have another wonderful show for you all because today I think we're going to be talking a little bit about MLK, a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys, Tampa Bay, showdown that's going on today. If you all don't know, I'm a Cowboys fan. I always have been. Grew up that way. Don't know why. But I think Daniel is a proud supporter of those people they call what are their names?
Stop it. Don't be ugly.
Yeah,
It's MLK Day. Don't be ugly. Don't you dare be ugly.
Oh, I just said it. Buccaneers. The Buccaneers.
No.
Yeah, there we go. The Buccaneers.
Have you guys won a playoff game?
Not in about roughly 15 years. It's been about 15 years since we won a playoffs game. But, we're back, man. We back. I mean, Dak is going to lead us there this year. So
I will tell you what I enjoy more than anything when the Dallas Cowboys lose a playoff game, or actually any game, is Jerry Jones. The looks that he gets, man. It's like, man, I don't want him to be my boss.
No, Jerry Jones. I think Jerry Jones is just one of those kind of guys. I mean, this is the same guy that refuses to admit that he has a child was born out of wedlock. So he denounced his own children. So I mean, the guy's brutal when it comes down to it. So at the end of the day, Jerry is going to be Jerry. I personally feel like as long as we can stop him from trying to be owner and coach, I think we'll have a better chance of actually going somewhere. But yeah, today is going to be an exciting day. I'll be calling you later on.
It's gonna be freezing, man. It's supposed to be like 38 out there.
I don't play football, so football for me is like I don't think I can go to a cold football game. I couldn't. I couldn't sit out there. Think about it. The people that play at in Green Bay, man, I don't know how they do it at Lombardi Field, bro. I do not understand how they do it.
No, that's freezing cold, man. Freezing cold. I would love to go to one of those football games, though.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oof, man.
There's a couple stadiums that I'd like to go to, just to say that I've been, and that would be one, man. I've seen pictures growing up as a kid watching the Bucks and the Packers play and stuff like that, and they do the blimp over the stadium and the city, and it's all just completely quiet, and it's like one car's moving and stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, got you. Okay, that's cool, man. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think experiencing that would be cool. I probably wouldn't be able to do it more than once. I mean, I've heard about those cold days over there in Lombardi Field, so I'm good. Yeah. Any cold football game is just not for me. I'm not a big fan of being in cold weather just to watch a sports game, like no matter what it is. Or anything, actually. I don't even like going out to like what they call it, the parades when it's too cold. I'm not sitting out there. I've seen people out there with heaters and stuff by their feet, sitting little gas heat. I'm good, man. I can't do it.
I'm gonna take a picture tonight and send it to you because you're gonna see a bunch of Florida people all bundled up like it's like 10 below, brother. Like that's how it's gonna be. When it hits 40, we are in scarves and hoodies and sweaters. It'll be fun though.
That's funny.
I mean, and again, it could be. I mean, I don't want it to be, but it could be Tom Brady's last game, right? Like, I don't think that guy needs to prove anything if he doesn't win a Super Bowl, I think it's time.
Yeah, I think overall, he's proven everything he's going to prove in football. I mean, he's a great talent. He's a great athlete. I know we had a situation with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp recently when, they was arguing on First Take about what they thought or what Skip thought. And, Shannon Sharp, how he pretty much didn't give or wouldn't actually give Tom Brady his props, man. And it's really crazy that seeing another athlete be so great so late in his career still, and he just bashing him on what he feel like he's not doing right. So I definitely think Tom Brady has nothing else to prove. He was let go from a team that he pretty sure he was going to retire from just to go the next year and beat the shit out of them and everybody else and win a Super Bowl. So I think he's proved everything he needed to prove when it comes to when it comes to his football career, and I don't think he has anything else to stand on. I think it's time to let it go at this point.
James, don't you think sometimes when someone talks like that about someone where everybody else obviously knows, I don't know, let's just say top 5 greatest quarterbacks. In my
Right.
eyes, I mean, in my opinion, he's the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, right?
I would agree.
My dad, my grandfather, somebody else would argue that because they've seen more than we have at
Right.
this moment in our
Right.
lives.
I mean, they're going to bring up people we never heard of. So
Yeah, exactly, right. And you can't really get a good justification of how good they were because it's black and white filming, right? It's just not the same, right?
Right. Exactly.
But there's always somebody out there in anything, whether it's football, baseball, business, banking, financing, whatever. There's always
Politics.
somebody that wants something. Like they're upset that you're not talking about them. So
Right.
they're like, oh, well, let me just tell you, Tom Brady's the worst quarterback in the world. He should have retired 5 years ago. Like, come on, man. Obviously, 99% of America or people in the world that know of Tom Brady are like, this guy's a stud.
He's a
Like,
stud. Yeah, definitely.
He's a stud. He's a stud.
I
right?
mean, went from
Go to your FanDuel account. It says stud above it.
exactly. I mean, the guy went from being drafted 198th to being the number 1 quarterback in the league. 3 or 4 years after being drafted. Like you can't put a blemish on that. Like even if he decided to play one more year and came off the bench, that still wouldn't blemish his career. I mean, I just think the guy's amazing overall. But yeah, let's move on, man. Let's
move on, brother. Let's move on.
Listen. Football and politics, it can go either way when it comes to these conversations. But since we're going to keep it light, we're not going to actually going to bring that into play. But yeah, man. Overall, how was your weekend? Let's get started there. How was your weekend, man?
Yeah, man. Just a long weekend. 3-day weekend always kind of just catches up, and you're like, oh man, what's Tuesday going to bring to the table? So that's kind of where I'm at. Today's preparation day. I'm treating today like a Sunday. Yes, I'm going to that game tonight with my daughter and her boyfriend and all that stuff. But today it's set that calendar, get ready for this week, and cram 5 days worth of work into 4 days at this moment, right?
That makes sense. Yes, you gotta, make sure you're prepared, even though the holidays come about. And again, I really don't want to say this, but yeah, these holidays come about, and I guess we like to use them as a break day or as a lazy day. But you still have to, if you're really trying to run a business, you really have to make sure that you're not getting caught too much up in the aesthetics of holidays, and still use these days to get things done. Especially holidays like President's Days, Martin Luther King's, and birthdays of celebrities. What if they allow you to take a break on those? It's like, just don't get so caught up in that.
No, and James, and speaking on that, right? It's tough as a business owner, right? Because as a business owner, you're like, all right, look, I'm pushing forward. I want to make sure that I'm continuing to grow. And in any business, sales are all around us, right? I mean, that's what it is, right? You're a business owner. You're selling whatever it is that you do. And then you have, your employees and all that stuff. And you want your employees to be happy and continue to be successful and all of that stuff.
Exactly.
And I think each business owner has to look at their business at some point and say, okay, what days am I working? What days am I off? What's going on? Stuff like that, right? And I think for myself, I was like, all right, if there's any federal, national holiday that's a federal holiday and it's recognized, I was like, all right, I'll just make that decision and we'll take that day off.
Exactly.
But it is tough, man, because like right now I'm thinking, man, that's 24 hours that I'm missing worth of work. 3 employees, right? 8 hours a day.
Yep.
That's a lot of money. And you could still see the phone calls coming in, right? Like for me, today is a great day, right? Because people are home. You can get a hold of them. You can talk to them, right?
Yep, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
I've got to go show some houses here a little bit later today. So,
yeah. And again, I think it really just comes down to how you feel as overall as a business owner, like you said, where you want to see your career go and how you want to pretty much play it, by ear. If I want to go out, if I want to take this day, sure. If not, I'm going to use it to benefit my business and my business growth. And you just made a prime example of why you should take this day and make it a day where you can actually build on those opportunities, like calling people because you know they're going to be at home. So I totally
Yeah.
agree, man.
Yep. Absolutely, man. How about you? How was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty copacetic, man. Again, I made some decisions to do some studying, did some research on the housing market. You know, figured out what was coming, what was next to do for the rest of the year. Reevaluate my goals and what I was trying to do. Look for some lead generation type of resources. You know, just trying to focus on the business aspect, man. Actually, for the nonprofit, if you all don't know, I just recently started a nonprofit called the Hope Foundation, helping others prosper every day. So just recently resourced a group to create the symbol and the logo for the company. So, yeah, man, I'm super excited about that as well.
Me too. Me too.
All right. So when it comes to this today, actually, I was trying to find something. You have to give me a second. I just downloaded something. I actually just sent it to you. I don't know if you see it in the chat, but it's going to be something that I want to talk about here in a hot second. Today is Martin Luther King Day. And we're not going to spend too much time talking about it, but it's something it's so unique to me that this, again, public figure, guy who led us out of a certain, situation, is still being looked at as one of the biggest martyrs in the world, for what he did and his accomplishments. But recently there was a statue erected in the middle of Boston in the common, I guess what they call it. I forgot what part that is in Boston. In one of the parks in Boston, there was a statue erected. Did you see that statue?
Oh, the statue where they're like hugging or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's called the Embrace. It's called the
Yep,
Embrace.
embrace. Yep.
Yeah. So you seen that statue, right? I mean,
I did see that statue. Yes, sir.
All right. Just out of curiosity, what's your opinion on that statue? I mean, come on, be honest now.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're a part of history, right?
Okay.
Like they move people, they've upset people, but that's just life in general, right?
That's true.
Like, I mean, we're not all going to agree on everything that we put out there as a statue or a monument or stuff like that. So I think it's part of our history, and I think we should embrace it, whether you like it or not.
Embrace it.
Yeah, yeah.
I got you.
You like that?
Yeah, that was nice. That was nice how you put that together. My thing overall is I think the image, it looks like shit. That's just me. I think the image literally like somebody holding a log of shit. I think the image could have been better presented. In certain angles, it looks a little weird. They spent $10 million on this statue. $10 million on this statue.
You wonder who's sitting at the table deciding what we're going to do, right?
Right. Like, who decided that this would be a great idea to put this picture or this image? The picture is fine. The picture that they chose was fine. But who signed off on allowing this statue to be actually created and put up for public, viewership? For me, the statue has so many things going wrong with it. And we actually had this conversation yesterday where I was deep in conversation about why are we still spending so much money on monuments of a guy who literally has a street name after him and schools in every city you go to. There's literally a Martin Luther King Drive in every city. And me personally, just from my experience, every time I see a Martin Luther King Drive, the neighborhood has been run down. It's not like they're actually using this street or this area where his name is to actually grow the area. It's always like poverty-stricken areas where his name is on these street signs. And again, that's just from my personal experience. I'm not saying that's factual everywhere, but just from where I've seen. So with me, I'm like $10 million that's going towards a statue that looks like ass. Could have went into actually pumping that money into areas of use. We could have fed people. We could have fed a multitude of societies, help build some living quarters or do something that actually made sense for this foundation. And again, I know for me, I think we've had this conversation, but I don't think the goal is to fix poverty, because if you fix poverty, if you actually fix homelessness, then those people who are getting these 20-30 billion dollar contracts wouldn't be getting these contracts anymore. If we actually fixed poverty, if we actually fixed homelessness, if we actually fixed the things that were wrong in our society or our community, then there wouldn't be no need to write these big ass checks anymore. So I don't think the goal is to actually fix anything, but the goal is to get money in from hardworking people to erect a statue of Martin Luther King and his wife embracing one another, which is totally fine. I'm not against what the actual statue was trying to represent. I'm looking at it like there's no head on the damn statue. We don't actually a teenager or a kid who's never heard of Martin Luther King, because you got to realize a lot of kids these days wouldn't actually know who the hell Martin Luther King is, because they're not being told or taught these things today. Or they just don't care, because they have their own martyrs. They have their own I forget the guy name. George Floyd's. They have their own people that they grew up on, that they actually supported the movement. They're not going to know the Jesse Jacksons of like we did, and the Martin Luther Kings, or the Huey Newtons. I'm sorry. They're not going to know these people like we knew these people. So for them to see this embrace, it's going to be like, who's holding that log of shit in the middle of Boston for them? It's like, that's my thing. Like, the money could have went somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, they spent $10 million on a statue, right? I mean,
million.
how much more money do they have out there?
Like, exactly. That's
like if I just came to you and said, James, I'm gonna spend $10 million on this statue and have a banquet dinner or stuff like that over that. How much more money do I have in the bank, and how much more money can I help somebody else with? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That would be the question to ask. It's like, how much more money is really out here that is being spent on, stuff that probably really don't matter at this point. So, I mean, that's just me. I don't want to sound like I'm the guy who's like.
When did the statue get placed, James?
2 days ago.
Perfect. It probably was a purchase before the end of the year for taxes.
Yeah, I actually think they started raising the money for it back in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. But I think it was just actually. I think it might have took a year or so to get it done. But yeah, they definitely pushed it out about a few days ago. And I was actually trying to bring up the picture so everybody in the chat and on the stream could see it if they haven't seen it. But you can definitely Google it if you haven't seen it. But let us know your opinions on it. I think somebody said something in the chat about it. Dolores said, good morning. Good morning, Dolores. B. Walker said, be careful. The MLK Foundation decided it would be a great idea. Well, I think it was a horrible idea, to be totally honest with you all. If you're at a hospital named MLK, you better get out of there. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I will tell you this on a different note, though. I do love his speeches and the message that he spread out and how people listen to him. Like, I love watching people that can bring a crowd together and stuff like that. So, it's always good to kind of sit back and watch his speeches and stuff like that. He was a great talker, and I loved it when people can speak like that, because people just stop and listen. Just like last night, right? We went to a violinist that played all like soul music, like tributes to Prince and Alicia Keys and all of that stuff.
Oh,
right?
Awesome. That's nice.
I was sitting there, and it's funny because it's tying in with today, right? But like, we all sat there. There was about 150 of us inside this church listening to this, and not one person was saying a word, but these violinists were just playing this music, and they were just leading us throughout the whole time, the whole hour and 20 minutes. They just led us the whole time in playing this music, and we just sat there and listened. And I was just thinking, like, when you're a leader, when you're a business owner, stuff like that, you're the violinist,
right?
You're running the show, right? And do you want a smooth transition, or do you is it going to be bumpy and stuff like that?
Right.
Yeah, I definitely like the leaders that speak the truth and can grab their audience and pour out their message.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think my thing is today though is just like if we look at the overall structure of it, and I grew up on this stuff my whole life. It's like is his message the same message? Is it watered down today, or is it even necessary today? Are we still in the same society that we were in back then? It's always great to have a point of reference to understand where we come from and where we are. I just think over time, there is new perspectives to be had or to be made and to be used as a new point of reference versus having to go back so far.
Move on, right? Like you said it, James.
Yeah.
Like the George, like my daughter and my kids and stuff like that. George Floyd, stuff like that. I mean, like that's you saw the movement with the young people and all of that stuff, right? I mean, and so you're right. I mean, it's great to reflect on things that happened in the past, but it is important that we move on as well.
Exactly, because how do we heal as a community, as a nation, if we still have the point of references of 1940s to the 1960s and whatever happened? Like again, it's like we should keep that in our history books, but at the same time, it shouldn't always be a point where we have to force it and say, hey, look where we come from. Look. It's like, let's talk about where we are and how far
Well,
we came.
what's the time frame? If you had that decision, what's the time frame?
Oh, man.
When do you say enough is enough? Let's leave it in the books. It's in the history books. Move on.
20, 25 years, especially if you can measure change. If you can measure change in a 20-year span, that's what we should be. Like, again, I mean, we talk about Columbus, right? We still talk about Columbus and what he did, but it's not an ongoing conversation. It's just like, okay, Thanksgiving come around, his name comes up. Okay, there's the people who say he was he was a murderer. Some people say he was a legend and a person, a prophet who came and helped us find new land and new worlds. Okay, we understand both sides. People have their opinions on each one, but is that something that we should have a daily conversation about? Is that something that we should have daily arguments about, or still trying to figure out if this person is like relevant to where we are today? Because I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about these people. I don't think it should be an everyday conversation like a lot of people have. That's all I'm saying. We should be pumping new resources into building $10 million statues. That's what I'm saying.
And getting a Monday holiday off, right?
Yeah, that's just me. That's just me though. But on a different subject, speaking of the holidays, I'm glad that we're about to get out of them. Not really, because we got Valentine's Day coming up. But one thing that I have been seeing lately is that a lot of real estate agents are taking days off, man, and that just irks me as a real estate agent. I don't understand how people take so many damn days off. I don't get it. But for me, as you mentioned earlier, this is a day of opportunities. And we was watching a video earlier, Daniel, about the real estate market, and they was talking about how there's finna be a market crash, man. I just don't see it. I don't see the market crash coming, because I think the market crash is more of a predictive thing to say versus an actual thing to live. I don't think we're actually going into a market crash. I mean,
I don't think so neither. Not at all, man. Not at all. Right. I mean, I don't necessarily think we learned our lesson to the fullest after 2008, but we learned something, right? We progressed. We evolved into a little bit better situation. But I mean, I think prices. What would you say? Prices drop.
Yeah,
10%.
About 10%. Yeah, a good
10%.
A good 7 to 10%.
Still, they were inflated by 30 or 40%.
But nobody had a problem with that, though, right?
Yeah, right.
Like it's crazy. Prices go up. Oh, I can make more money. I have no problem with the market. I just can't afford it. But there wasn't no market that's going to crash. But when prices drop and you have an opportunity to buy in, oh, now the market is going to crash. Oh, now there's this huge cloud over the housing market that things are going to end. The world is coming to an end. No, that's not the damn case. Like, I hear this so much, and it's starting to become a little frustrating. Now, is there some things changing in the housing market that we should be aware of? Yes. Is everybody going to be able to afford a home? No. But there's a huge number of people who actually did right by their credit, has the finances saved, actually have a new family they're starting that can afford living, and that's a huge percentage. So we can't always just look at everything from the lower class, the middle class perspective, or the lower middle class perspective. We also got to look at things from, okay, there are still affordable living for those who can afford them, and that's a huge percentage of people.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, James. A couple of shows ago we spoke about when our kids graduate school,
Yeah.
not buying them a car and stuff like this, but investing in a property and stuff. It was funny because we were sitting down the other day, sitting here talking about the housing market, and my wife was asking me how the real estate is and all of that stuff. And when her and I bought our first house in 2004, and we spent $145,000 on that house, right?
Mm-hmm.
1,400 square foot home, 2-car garage, brand new home. At that time, I was like, $145,000. Are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? Like that's nuts. That's insane,
That's
right?
like super crazy. Like where you find it at?
Yeah. James, that house right now is $325,000.
That's
Right
crazy.
now.
That is
That
crazy.
is absolutely insane. And even if that drops 10%, right? I mean, that still brings it down to say
Oh
$280,000, $290,000.
wow, yeah.
Like someone right now, even at minimum wage, 15, $17 with the electric, the gas, eggs are $9 or $10, man. It's tough. It's
Yeah, it
tough.
is. It is. It definitely is. But that's part of life, though. That's part of the inflation structure. Without
Yeah.
inflation, without prices rising, where are we? Where are we in the world? Like we can't stay stagnant right now. The reason why we can't stay stagnant is because the comfort level of people and how they constantly feel like, okay, I can make $40 an hour and I can go out and spend $38 an hour once I get off work. That means that you're still the same. You're still in the same bracket, because the whole goal is to be able to understand finances, period. That's investing, savings, just overall building your own wealth outside of a day-to-day, or outside of a 9 to 5. And if you don't actually have that mentality to go to that distance to actually say, hey, this is what we're going to do with our finances after we make our finances, then you're going to be overspending. What happens with overspending? Stopping people from biting off their own tail, living the rat race that they're always living. We have to raise prices. So if we raise prices, we can help you limit what you spend so you can live longer, and we don't actually put our economy into a space where the goods are over consumed. Our goods are over consumed so much. People overeat, people overspend, people over just buy everything. Like they buy 2 or 3 pairs of shoes when they should only just buy one. Like there's so much demand for things that are actually not needed in our world. We're really wasteful consumers. I really think so.
James, here's what scares me, right? It's not the houses right now. It's
Right.
not the real estate. It's not the finances. It's not the interest rate, right? Here's what scares me. I don't know if people are even talking about it. So right now, we just talked about 2004, 145,000.
Exactly.
I know it's 2023. Let's just say 20 years later, right? That house now is $300,000,
Yep.
right? 100% increase. Okay. The wages have not increased based on that. Our younger generation right now, your daughter, my son, stuff like that, this generation. What scares me is that they may look at it and be like, you know what? I don't want to buy a house. I want to travel the world. I'm going to go from place to place. I'm going to move here. I'm going to move here. They see these TikTok videos. They see everything else. They see all these great things, right? And they're little clips. Like, it scares me that they may not want to buy a house. They may not want to have that American dream. It could happen. Then what do we do?
I personally think it has happened. I think it has happened. The could definitely, but I think it actually has. One thing about it is once you start having these conversations, it's because you've already seen it happening. The realization and the actual reality of life is scary, as you just mentioned, and I think we refuse to see it We refuse to see it for what it really is. TikTok and all of these other social media platforms, and again, I'm not against them. But I am against sometimes on how they're used or how they're manipulated. These things do create a false reality. The false reality, especially for these teenagers. My daughter, just since we're talking about the children for a moment, my daughter, I recently had a conversation with her yesterday. It was yesterday, day before, and she was in the car and she was like, "Dad, what is it to be an adult? Like, what is it? Like, what does that mean?" Because she doesn't feel like she's becoming an adult, but she wants to feel it. But I'm like, it's not a feeling. It's not being an adult is not a feeling. It's things that you do. It's just pretty much actions. It's a choice. It's choosing to be an adult. It's choosing to have responsibilities. It's choosing to take care of your responsibility. That's pretty much simply what an adult is. Because I mean, I talk to people all the time, and I can tell you, I know a lot of grown people. Being grown doesn't make you an adult. I know a lot of people who are of age who are still not adults. They do not have the mentality of what we perceive an adult should be. I think being an adult is goal oriented. You have to be goal oriented to actually be an adult. If you don't have goals and you don't have things set up for you to accomplish throughout your life, and to take responsibility for your actions once these certain things come about, then you're not adult. If you always need to run home to your mom and jump on the breast and, always go into your father's pocket to make sure things are where it needs to be, excuse me, you're not an adult. An adult is a person who takes on the responsibility of superiority in their own life. Like, that's what that becomes. Not having kids doesn't mean. I know a lot of people with kids that are not adults.
Yeah,
Just
that
because,
doesn't make you an adult.
right? Just because you pay your bills doesn't make you an adult as well. Because there's a lot of people who are paying their bills. Hey, I know some 14-year-olds that make more money than their parents and they pay their bills. So are the kids adults? Like, just because they pay their bills? No. What makes a person adult is the fact that they can lead, they can support, they can grow from their actions, and they can take responsibility from their choices. I think that's what makes a person an actual adult.
James, you said it probably 6, 7, 8 times in that clip there. In your responsibility level jumps up to the next step.
Yep.
Right? Like when you're, I don't even know, if you're under the age of 18 and you're living under mom and dad's roof and stuff like that, you have responsibilities. But then when you want to call it, when you become an adult, you have a lot more responsibility.
Exactly.
And things just happen, right? You're not going to school anymore. Like you're trying to pay your own bills, you're trying to do things. So responsibility for me, that level definitely steps up. And as an adult, we do have a hell of a lot more responsibilities.
Exactly.
Yep.
So speaking about what you just said, I really wish our kids would get out here and buy more properties instead of going to college or buying cars or buying purses and buying things that really aren't of value. I think we should really be focusing on helping our young generation purchase homes at the age of 18 once they get into the habit of understanding what money and what financial stability could be for them in life.
James, I will tell you, like, I love the fact that your daughter asked you, what is it being an adult, right? I have the same conversations with my daughter. She's 19 years old, and she'll ask things, and she's like, man, how does this happen, Dad? Or how do you do this? Like, I think as a father, as a mother, right, you want your child to ask you those questions. We want our children to fall. We just don't want them to fall as far as we fell.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, in reality, that's the way that it is, and they're going to want the same for their children and all of that stuff. But I think at 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, I really think that you should be asking mom and dad, what is it to be an adult? How can I become financially sound? How can I create some passive income, right? And if you don't set those things up throughout raising them, you're going to be, what was it you said? breastfeeding or whatever it was.
Breastfeeding, yeah,
It's
yeah,
something like that, right,
yeah,
James?
yeah, yes, exactly. You're still going to be going home looking for the breast of the mother in the
I'm
pockets of
trying to
the
be
father.
careful if
Yeah,
I ever want to run for like governor or
yeah.
something.
I mean, that's totally
Okay.
understand. I mean, if I ran for governor, when I do run for alderman, my conversation, my responses and my things wouldn't stray too far from where I'm at today. So I think I
That's
would.
all right. I'll tell people. I'll tell people I told you to say it. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good to me. But yeah, man, honestly, I really wish these kids would focus more on what's going on in the markets, what would or ask questions. Because Bernadette, and one thing I wanted to talk about as well is Bernadette said J.P. Morgan is buying up everything. Yes, they are. So our generation or our generation of kids that are now coming up are going to be renters if they don't focus on what is actually going on in the world. And what's going on in the world is, again, people like JP Morgan and Zillow. At one point, they were buying up everything in everybody's neighborhood, trying to pretty much corner the market to create their own prices. And at that point, then if there's the rental market being, taken advantage of by these bankers who at any point, like you mentioned earlier, could be bailed out from the government if
Oh
they
yeah.
ran into trouble, they're going to be able to dictate what your child is going to be spending. If they don't stay on the campus of the college that they're going to, and if they don't stay with you, and they just, like my daughter was like, oh, I can't wait to go get my own apartment or live off campus because I don't want to dorm with anyone. Well, you got to realize, with people like JP Morgan buying up all the properties in these neighborhoods, spending billions of dollars to pretty much monopolize the real estate market, your rent could be $3,000 for a 1 bedroom studio because they have the control to do that. Now, why would we want to allow this as a community or as a nation of people who have the opportunity of free market? If we have the opportunity and we have a free market of what we have been told, why would we want to sit aside and watch people like JP Morgan come up and buy up the neighborhoods?
Yeah. Well, James, the other thing is there's people out there right now saying, oh, well, they're going to try it and they're going to crash. Like you said, the difference is Zillow, right? JP Morgan Chase, the bank. I mean, come on, guys. They have so many titles and deeds to so many properties right now. They've got so much money. And I joked when I said that when we were off camera, right? I was like, well, if they fail, they're just going to get bailed out. They're not bailing out Zillow,
No,
right?
they're not going to bail out Zillow. No.
But JP Morgan Chase, yes, they're going to bail them out, and they're going to put a brand new $10 million statue in front of the bank.
It's like, yes, and it's that easy for them to do this because overall we allow this to happen. The thing about politics and finances that go hand in hand is the fact that you have to realize big money runs big money. That's period. Big money runs big money, but we do have opportunity to get in front of big money and say we're not allowing this to happen, because at the end of the day, big money needs us to actually survive. Without us, the big money doesn't survive. And how do we help control that? Well, we help control that by controlling our own spending. If we control our own spending, we can then use our extra finances to then offset the opportunities that we actually give them. We give these banks these opportunities to come in and buy up our neighborhoods,
Yep.
buy up the properties, because we refuse to purchase the things that are on sale. Like right now, housing market is on sale. It is on sale. You can buy things at a discount, but at the same time, you have these idiots on YouTube. Pretty sure someone will be saying the same thing about us right now. Listen to these idiots telling people to go buy when the market is going to crash. Well, listen. If you're waiting on a market to crash, then you're also waiting on Santa Claus to deliver you the keys to your new house, because the possibilities of that happening is almost zero to none. So
James, but they could call us idiots. But guess what? 45 days ago, interest rates were at like seven and a quarter percent. Right now, they're at 6% right now,
Yep.
average.
Average.
Buy.
Yeah. Why would you not buy at a discount?
Yeah.
Prices are down, or you can negotiate them down. Plus, you have a lower interest rate.
You call me an idiot all day long, right? Like right now is a good time to buy. Again, you're marrying the house, you're dating the interest rate. Leave it at that. Move on, right? Do not cry over spilt milk. If it's $100, $200 more in a mortgage payment than what you want to pay, you ride it out. Pay your bills. You're building equity in your house. Right now, you are not fighting the JP Morgan Chases right now in the market. But trust me,
You will be. Yep.
they're coming. They're game planning right now to say, okay, what is our strategy in this market? Just like they did 24 months ago,
Yep.
and they came into the market. They strategize, they have the money, they put the people in place and said, okay, this is our game plan. Let's go buy houses. Well, things changed. Now they're sitting at the table, they're putting everything together, and they're ready to go and buy again. And it will happen. So, buyers, buy, get out there, find your realtor. You don't
Yeah.
have to call me and James or Bernadette or anyone on our team. Get out there and call a realtor and
Yeah.
go build some equity.
Start building equity. I totally agree. I mean, I think people are afraid. The thing is, I don't know. And again, I don't know why people are so scared to buy a house. I mean, I understand all the horror stories that you can buy a money pit, but that's why you have a team of, specialized people to help you through the process. You have people like myself, and again, you, and just overall, other realtors who have been seasoned in the game. And again, you want to make sure you have a realtor that's not just after a check, because at that point,
No.
Bernadette, I'm sorry, Bernadette. Pete Walker said, call me. So she said, call me. I totally agree. But yeah, but overall, it does come down to being afraid. Stop being afraid to spend your money in the right places, because I think we are so comfortable spending our money in the wrong places. I've met people who literally go out and spend an extra $100 on bullshit daily, like just literally go and buy unnecessary crap for no reason, because they're comfortable spending, money and things that they feel comfortable spending money in, because they spend it so often. You become comfortable spending that. But when it comes to spending something that you only buy once or twice in a lifetime, it's like, oh, well, is this the right time? Is this the right place? I don't care if you were buying a dilapidated property for $30,000, $40,000. I'd rather have that dilapidated property and the land that it sits on versus having nothing in the real estate market. So me, it's always an opportunity to find something, to build something, to grow on something, and that's real estate. I always think that we should be taking advantage of that and stop allowing these places like BlackRock and JP Morgan to come through and just buy up everything, and then they dictate where you live, how much it costs for you to live in those areas.
And then they set the market, right?
Set the market. And I can't be mad at those people, because they're just looking at an opportunity that we're afraid to take advantage of. One thing that we can talk about real quick is gentrification. It's the word that we shouldn't be using, but okay, we can use it. We're not on clock right now. But gentrification is something that most people see in, poverty-stricken neighborhoods or areas, right? I have this conversation pretty often, off the clock. I have this conversation pretty often. But my thing is, the question that I have the most, and the question that I really would love answered by someone of intelligence, not just by me or you or ourselves, but even if somebody just can really point it out to me, all right? And I'm considered a black person in America, and I'm not saying I could say this just because of that, but most of these poverty-stricken neighborhoods are of African American, cultures, or black culture, or black American culture, and these areas are literally on sale all the time. It's not a time these areas are not on sale. Now,
there's a property always available.
Right.
Yep.
So for me, I hear the conversations for some people that I've had in my car, I've talked to of doing real estate. A lot of these people are of the black culture, and the conversation normally starts like this: "Hey man, what you think about all these white people coming into the neighborhood buying up all the properties?" Well, why aren't you buying the properties? If your next door neighbor is selling their property for $140,000 because they need $30,000-$40,000 worth of work, why aren't you buying it? That's the question. That's the real question. You're saying white people are coming in and buying it, or Asians are coming in and buying the properties. Well, they see an opportunity. Why don't you see the same opportunity? Oh, because I don't want to buy out my neighbor. I don't want to buy out another black person from selling their property. Well, if they don't sell it to you, they're going to sell it to somebody, because their goal is to sell the damn thing. What are you saying? You don't want to buy things in the neighborhood that you're in. You're saying that because you're actually scared to go into that side of your investment, inside of life, that can actually benefit not just you and your family, but the community that you say that you care about. Yep. Right. You say you care about this community, but you don't actually do anything to invest the money that you see could be invested into the properties right next door to you. And you get upset when someone of a different race origin or culture comes in and see that opportunity, takes that exact same property that you could have bought and put $30,000 into it, and now they've changed not only the market for that house, but your house as well. Now your house worth more money because they bought the house next door and actually fixed it up. So the 120,000 you could have got for your house can now go for 150 because of the $20,000 they put in that property.
James, most people sit like this. They have blockers on, regardless of what community it is in and stuff like that. They have blockers on and they can't visualize, hey, I could buy that house at a discounted price. I could put $20,000-$30,000 in. Now I could just reset the entire street based on what I done.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And again, education, parents, right? In some of our poverty communities and stuff like that we have, right? Are they being educated properly? Are they being talked to properly? Is mom and dad there? Is there an uncle? Is there a grandparent or something like that? I mean, there's just so much. But you're right. Like if you're living in a community and you see an opportunity down the street to purchase a house and you don't plan on going anywhere and you want to, spruce up things or whatever it is, you buy that property and you fix it up.
Yeah, that's what I totally agree. I guess another real question that needs to be asked is it even real? Is it or a delusion? Is gentrification even a real thing? Like, can you really gentrify a neighborhood? No, I don't really think you can. I think you can just actually invest into a community that you believe in, invest into opportunities that you believe in. I don't think that's gentrification. No one is forcing anyone to sell their home. No one is forcing anyone to sell their business. These things are opportunities. If you have $90,000 in equity in your home, and I come and say, I want to give you $170,000, and with that $170,000, you could walk away with $90,000 in your pocket. I'm not forcing you. There's no gun to your head to do this. Like who's forcing you to do this? No one's forcing anybody to take $90,000 that can go into their pocket, before taxes, of course. But no one is forcing anyone to do this. I think the notion of what a gentrification structure looks like is something that's is something that's forced. My goodness.
Yeah, man. You need me to pat you on the back?
I'm good.
All right.
I think it's something that's forced. I think gentrification is something that people
over this conversation, man. Yeah.
But yeah, I personally think that is something that people think is a forceful situation. People forcing themselves in the neighborhood. People are forcing themselves and forcing you out. That's not the case. Now, if you're being forced out, it's because your landlord actually owns the house and they're looking to sell it because of the opportunities that they see with the property that they have in that neighborhood. And now at that point, you have to be pushed out because the person who wants to take over the home do not want the old tenant. They're not looking to rent the house. They may be looking to sell it, fix it up and sell it. So these opportunities are dependent on the person who's purchasing the property. Now, that's something you can say I'm being forced out of as a renter, but you can be forced out of an apartment building, a condominium, anything if the owners of the building decided to sell it or revamp it. So I look at it in that sense.
Well, in 2012, right? 2012, 2013, they were taking these apartment complexes and selling them into condos.
Yep.
They're like, hey, sorry, we're not renting them anymore. We're selling them now. And you could go in and buy. I mean, crazy, but yeah. It was happening.
And I think it's going to happen again because we're not buying anything. People are getting this false information like they shouldn't buy. FHA, and this is the crazy thing that I'm learning new stuff every single day. Even as I get older, I feel like I should have already known this stuff as a realtor. But right now, you can buy a home with a 500 plus credit score. 500 plus credit score, FHA, FHA.
And if you're a nurse, firefighter, paramedic, all that stuff, man, you get up to $25,000 of credit.
So people don't understand this. The notion that you can actually go and buy a house at a 500 plus credit score is a shock to me because I'm constantly told you need a 580, you need a 620, you need a 700. I'm constantly being told this as a realtor, but it takes you going out and doing the research to understand. You talk to the right mortgage company, they can find someone to back your 500 credit score loan application. It's about talking to the right person, the right mortgager, knowing what your credit score is before you even go and have these conversations, knowing what you have on your credit before you have these conversations, because most people just want to go to the well-known banks, the banks that are commercialized, like the Chase banks, like the Wells Fargo's, the lending tree, because they're putting so much money in promoting these companies, because these companies have a strict guideline of what they have a buy box. They have what they will buy, what they will not buy. And most of the people that they're selling to is the people with the 580 plus credit scores. But there are companies out there that will help you purchase a house at 500 credit score. The only thing is, it may take a little more money to go put down. Instead of the 3.5% FHA, you may have to put 7 to 10% down. But guess what? You get to purchase a home. That's the thing. With a 500 credit score, you still get to purchase a home. That's what people are not realizing.
And then hopefully your responsibility level goes up.
Yes,
right?
yes, that's what we're looking for. We want your
Yep.
responsibility level to go. That's when you become an adult, when you want to take on those risks and those opportunities. I don't think a lot of us are willing to take on those risks and opportunities when it comes to that. I need a 620 credit score. We give ourselves these little points of references of what we need, but you don't really know what you need because you're not really doing the research. You're going off of what other people are telling you. You're going off of what
James,
other people say.
You said it right there, man. And I support you 100%. That's the problem. And I've done it myself, right? I've done it. I'm sure you've done it. I'm sure people listening right now have done it. We'll listen, we'll hear something, and we ride with that. We don't do the research, right? I think it's another step in responsibility and becoming an adult is like, you can't just take what Joanne said and run with that, right? You need to go and research it and figure it out yourself and come up with a conclusion of what's going on and what you should be doing.
Exactly. But and it's hard for a lot of us because we feel like the resources aren't out there. Now, it was hard for my great-grandmother who couldn't get to the library, or my great-great-grandmother who couldn't get to the library because she was black and they wouldn't allow her in certain parts, or certain people who actually was just in a poverty-stricken area and the libraries there only had certain books. But the opportunity to today is there for everybody. You could jump on the internet and just, search and Google and, order Amazon books and read more. There's so many different opportunities for us as quote unquote people of the United States to make opportunities happen for us, not to us. You want to make things happen for you, not to you, So I think at this point we have to focus in on getting the knowledge, understanding where we are in our society, and making moves from there.
Absolutely, man. Yep, I agree.
Last week you asked me a question.
I've been waiting. I'll let you ask me a question, then I'll answer next week.
All right, guys. Real quick, Sierra just said, where would you recommend buying property at? I've seen mobile homes go for 250 to 300,000. I think as a young person in the market, it's challenging to face prices like that and not be scared to buy. Great. That's a great question. And the thing is, and if I know you're going to have a response to this as well, as the father. So for me, I think that's the thing as well. A recommended place to buy isn't up to a realtor or anybody outside of yourself. It goes without saying, you have to do your own research. If you're seeing price points from 250 to 300, that's still affordable living. Am I wrong? That's affordable living, 250 to 300. So that's not outside of the scope of actuality. If you make anything between $25,000 to $30,000 a year, it's easy. It's cake to buy a $250,000 home. The down payment on a $250,000 home would be roughly $7,000, $8,000.
About
$8,000. On top of that, you have first-time home buyer courses. If you're a young person, young teenager, young adult, you have opportunities to take these first-time home buyer courses that will cover up to 70 to 100% of your down payment. So that is nipped in the bud. All you have to do now is focus on what your closing cost is going to look like. Well, with a good realtor, you're going to negotiate some of that closing cost, especially in a market like this. You're going to negotiate some of that closing cost, at least 1 or 2% of that closing cost. So that could save you another $1,500 to $3,000 on your closing costs. So the $9,000 that you would have been spending already, $10,000 you would have been spending, is already covered either by a first-time home buyer's course and a great realtor asking for some type of seller's what is it? Seller's compensation on the back end. So with that being said, Sierra, the fact that the numbers scare you, and you're like Daniel said, you're marrying the house and you're dating the interest rate. Yes, you want to marry your house. You want a property to marry. And again, all marriages don't last. You can always get divorced. You can always sell off things. So at some point, if your equity has been built up, you can then turn around and get that money back out of it at some point. So don't be scared of, or don't even worry about where you're buying the property, because sometimes you can find great properties in bad neighborhoods. You can find horrible properties in good neighborhoods, because not all neighborhoods stay at its high point.
Be a community builder.
Be a community builder. Exactly.
Right. But I would say to Sierra and anybody out there that's looking at that 250 to 350 mark, right? I think the average home price now in the US is somewhere around 325, 350, right? So 250 is almost a steal. But look back 50 years ago, right? 50 years ago, you could buy houses, 1,400 square foot house for $35,000, right? And that's just a standard regular market. 2004, we buy a house for 150,000. 20 years later, that house has doubled, right? It's now 300,000. So what is that $250,000 house going to be in 20 years from now?
Right. 500-600.
Yeah. $500-600, right? Or five.
I wish.
Yeah. So again, buy the house. You're marrying the house. You're dating the interest rate. It's pretty obvious if you look at the patterns with people buying houses. They don't usually stay in their house for more than 5-7 years, especially their first house, right?
Yeah, first house. Mm-hmm.
You buy your house, you're going to upgrade, you become a family, so you need 2-car garage instead of a 1-car garage, stuff like that. So, but yeah, great question. But don't get scared with the prices, because like I said earlier, right? 2004, I was scared. I was like, $150,000. I'm in debt for the next 30 years. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Right. So.
And it's not debt. I mean, it's a liability if you treat it as a liability, but it's always an asset if you treat it as an asset. Again, I told my daughter she's good to stay with me until she's 26, 27, maybe even 30. As long as she's on her, as long as she's focused and we're building a family franchise or a family, like, I don't mind my daughter staying with me and, whatever she's trying to build. Because again, look at the royal family. Hell, they still stay in their palace together. I mean, but look what they have, look what they have. Like, they've built a foundation. So I love that type of notion. We like to rush our kids out the house. Go out, go be 8, you're 19, go live, go find your husband and stuff like that. I mean, listen, I'm thinking of wealth building, and wealth building doesn't always come the way most people like to look at it. So yeah, whatever you decide to do, Sierra, I support it, especially at this age in your life. Wealth building. So yeah. So real quick, we got to get up out of here. Back to what you were asking me last week. What's my biggest accomplishment, right? Today, yeah. And I thought about that. So I thought about that quite a lot. We've had conversations about who we are and where we come from, like our first podcast and everything like that. But I really couldn't pinpoint what's my biggest accomplishment, because I think everything is so minute right now compared to where I'm trying to go. And it's not that I don't have a huge accomplishment that I can actually point out, but I think, honestly,
your story's not done.
Right. My story's not done. But right now, if I had to point out the biggest accomplishment, I could easily say, oh, my daughter's my biggest accomplishment, this and that. But honestly, the thing I think I accomplished was not falling for the lie of society, the lie of reality. And that is let me make sure I say this right. All right. Being a 35, 40-year-old person who's still living the dream of what they thought they were supposed to be. I think I gave up on the notion of living the life that I felt like was supposed to be paid for me. The moment I stopped hanging with friends and stopped partying and going to clubs and stopped smoking and stopped drinking, that was the biggest accomplishment, because I think those are the biggest hindrances of our society today. And the moment that I was able to recognize those bad habits, those elements of, I'm gonna say elements of depression, because I think I was at my lowest during those points. I didn't have any drive. I didn't have any motivation, because I was pouring my drive, motivation, and all my opportunities into these habits that wasn't feeding the growth that I was looking for. And the moment I was able to have those things dissipate out of my life, I was able to then focus on the guy that you see today in front of you, because I think I was always this person, but I think I had layers that I had to go through to actually become the person that you are sitting here listening, hearing today. And we all have that opportunity. I think we all fall for, at some point, we all fall for the lie, the perspective of what fun is, what society tell us is the best life or the most experienced life. And I had that at such a young age. I started developing and getting involved in that life at such a young age that by the time I was 27, 28, I was so deep into that life that it was 10 times harder to climb out of it. So that's what I want to teach my daughter today, is like, you don't have to fall for, what you're seeing on TV, the lifestyle that they're selling you, because it's not real. What they're selling us on TV and social media is not what real life is. So
Yeah,
that's my biggest accomplishment, man, today.
I love it, James, and I love the guy that you are right now, but I don't dislike the guy that you were before I met
Exactly.
you, because you have to live and
You
learn.
have to live
right?
and learn. Yep.
You have to live and learn, right? And again, we said it in this conversation, in this podcast right here, right? We want our children to fall, but we don't want them to fall as far as we fell.
did. Right. I want you to experience and learn, but you don't have to go to the depths in which your predecessors went. So
yeah. I love it, man. You're a good guy, man. You're a good guy.
I appreciate it.
I got your back, man. I got your back.
Thank you. Okay, awesome. Next week, I'm looking for the same answer from you. Not same answer, but the same question is pending towards you. Man, what's your biggest accomplishment? And yeah, man, I look forward to hearing that answer. And for everybody else, please jump in the chat next week. Let us know what your answers are to the same question, if you have any. What's your biggest accomplishment to year to date or life to date? And yeah, I would love to hear those answers and see where everybody's at and where everybody planning on going. But other than that, I definitely enjoyed this conversation, man. It was another great episode. What you think?
Awesome, buddy. And I'm gonna go out on a limb. It's gonna be 28-16 tonight, buddy. You going down?
28.
Tom Brady's gonna be 9-0 against the Cowboys.
28 Dallas, 7 Tampa.
7 Tampa.
Yeah. I could do you dirty and just say, y'all might get a field goal, because our defense is pretty immaculate this year. So,
God.
So I'm gonna let you have it. All right, man. Listen, have a great day, man. Talk to you later. And everybody, have a great one. Let us know how you feel about the show in the comment section. Make sure you like, share, and make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell so you can be notified next time we go live.
Yeah, do it. Have a good one, guys.